Today, we're looking at AI in the classroom and how it's going to change things.
Yeah, should be fascinating.
It really seems like the future of education, you know?
Totally.
And we're focusing on two super interesting perspectives on this.
Okay.
First up is Microsoft. They're going all in on AI for education, like not just dipping their toes, but launching these huge projects. And they're creating all these free resources for teachers.
Wow.
It's really something.
Yeah, you don't see a tech giant like Microsoft jumping into education every day. Makes you wonder what's the catch.
Right. But it really shows how much potential AI has. I mean, think about it. It's already changing so many industries.
Totally.
And education's next, I think.
It's not just about making things a little smoother or a little more efficient either. It's like they're trying to completely reinvent how we think about teaching and learning from the ground up.
Exactly. And the guy leading the charge for Microsoft Asia is this guy, Larry Nelson. He's got a really interesting background, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. He's got experience in the tech world, obviously.
Right.
But he also ran a family business for a while. And get this, he's got roots in education, too.
Wow, talk about well-rounded.
Right.
That's not your typical tech exec resume.
Not at all. So anyway, one of the things that really caught my eye in this Microsoft report was how they see AI completely changing personalized learning.
Okay, yeah, I saw that.
And they're not just talking about like adjusting the speed of a lesson or anything like that. They're saying AI can recognize when a student is bored, suggest a different learning style, even flag when they're ready for a bigger challenge.
That's wild.
Isn't it? It's like having a personal tutor for every single student.
Absolutely. AI can track a student's progress like we've never been able to before. Let's say a student's struggling with, I don't know, algebra. AI could pinpoint their exact issues and then offer help that's actually useful.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It could suggest different ways of explaining the concept, or even find practice problems that match how they learn best.
It's incredible. But what about the teachers? Where do they fit into all of this?
Right.
It's great that kids might have these amazing AI tools.
Sure.
But are we going to have robots replacing teachers in the classroom?
I mean, that's the million-dollar question, right? And it makes sense that some teachers were worried about it. But the really interesting thing is that Microsoft actually sees AI as a way to give teachers more time. Think of all the hours they spend on grading, lesson planning, even just administrative stuff.
Oh, for sure.
AI could take over those tasks.
So instead of like grading math tests all night,
Exactly.
teachers could be doing more hands-on stuff with the kids or, you know, just spending more one-on-one time with students who need a little extra help.
It's all about letting teachers focus on the things that AI just can't do. Things that really need a human touch, you know? Building relationships, encouraging creativity, helping students develop those uniquely human skills that AI can't replicate.
It's not about replacing teachers, it's about giving them superpowers. But, you know, Larry Nelson, the guy from Microsoft we were talking about, he takes it even further. He says AI isn't just about making things easier or more efficient. It's about completely changing how we view work as a whole. What do you make of that?
That's really something to think about.
It really makes you think about whose voices are being heard when we talk about these big technological shifts.
That's a good point.
And speaking of voices, that's what's so interesting about our second source for this deep dive. It brings up a really important ethical angle to all of this AI and education stuff.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It basically asks, are we forgetting to ask the students what they think?
Oh, interesting.
Like, we're so busy being wowed by the technology and thinking about how it can help.
Right.
But are we even stopping to consider the students' perspectives on all of this? Kids shouldn't just be, you know, passive recipients of whatever AI is brought into their classrooms.
Right, they're not just empty vessels.
Exactly. They should have a voice in shaping how this technology is used in their education.
Absolutely.
After all, they're the ones who are going to be living in a world surrounded by AI more than any of us. Probably.
More than any of us, that's for sure.
It only makes sense to include them in the conversation.
100%.
They're not just blindly optimistic or pessimistic about it, you know.
Okay.
They see both the potential benefits and the risks, which makes sense.
Yeah, they're growing up with this technology. It's all around them.
Exactly. And they're already thinking critically about how it'll shape their lives.
It's like they don't have the same baggage we do, you know? They're not stuck in old ways of thinking.
So it's more than just knowing how to code or anything like that.
Okay, so it's more about understanding how AI works.
Exactly.
Like the nuts and bolts of it.
Well, maybe not the super technical stuff.
Okay.
But it's about understanding how AI is being used in the real world, and most importantly, being able to think critically about it.
Critically.
Like, what are the implications of using AI in this way or that way?
So it's about giving them the tools to not just use AI, but to actually question it.
Exactly. To analyze it and to even shape it to meet their needs. It's pretty powerful when you think about it.
It is. It's like, instead of just being passive users of technology, they become like active participants in shaping it.
And there's this really cool example in the article about how watching how children play can actually help us design better AI.
Oh, really? How so?
So they talk about this robot dog, Aibo.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of Aibo.
It's been around for a while, but it's a great example of how we can learn from kids.
Okay.
The article explains that by watching how kids interacted with Aibo, the developers could figure out what made it fun and engaging for them.
That makes sense, yeah.
It wasn't just about programming the robot to do tricks. It was about understanding how kids play and what they find interesting.
It's like getting at the heart of playfulness and imagination.
Exactly. And by observing that, they could make Aibo feel more intuitive and engaging for a younger audience.
That's fascinating.
It shows how important it is to actually involve kids in the design process right from the start.
Yeah, like don't just guess.
Yeah.
Actually ask them what they think.
Right. Their insights are so valuable.
And we should be applying that kind of thinking to all aspects of AI that'll affect their lives, not just robot dogs.
Absolutely. It's about taking a child-centered approach to all of this. It's wild to think we started talking about AI completely changing the classroom.
I know, right?
And now we're talking about robot dogs.
It really highlights how fast this technology is moving, though,
It really does.
and how important it is to think critically about how we're using it, especially with kids. I mean, AI literacy is basically what's going to equip students to navigate this whole new world, right?
Right.
They need to understand this technology inside and out.
And not just how to use it.
Exactly.
But how to question it, analyze it, and even shape it to their needs.
It's about making sure they're not just along for the ride, but actually in the driver's seat when it comes to AI.
I like that, in the driver's seat. So how do we actually get there? How do we ensure that happens?
Well, it's going to take a joint effort, that's for sure. Educators, policymakers, parents, we all have a role to play.
What do you see as our biggest priorities? If we want to get this right, what do we need to focus on?
I think a good place to start is just having those open and honest conversations about the role of AI in education. And, I mean, really digging into the potential downsides, too. We can't just focus on the shiny new possibilities.
We've got to address the risks head on.
Exactly. We need to talk about things like bias in algorithms, access to these technologies, and how to make sure AI is being used ethically in the classroom.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. Technology should be a tool that supports and enhances that connection between teachers and students, not something that replaces it.
Couldn't agree more. Technology should be there to help teachers do what they do best, not push them out of the picture.
Exactly.
So as we wrap things up here, what's the one thing you hope listeners take away from this deep dive? If they're feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this, what should they focus on?
That's a good question. I think the most important thing is to just stay engaged in the conversation. AI is evolving so quickly, and it's impacting every aspect of our lives, especially education. So stay curious, ask questions, and don't be afraid to challenge assumptions about what AI in education should look like.
I love that. Stay curious, stay engaged. This has been a fantastic conversation, really thought-provoking.
It has.
And I think we all learned a lot. To everyone listening, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll be back next time with another fascinating topic. Until then, keep those brains buzzing.